Hey YouTube, this is the most passionate show on the internet about taxes. And today we're going to answer the question, what do I do if a lien on my house is preventing me from refinancing? This is a problem that a lot of people sometimes end up happening or have happened to them. They may have an old debt or something they haven't been able to pay because they're just meeting bills. They're trying to refinance their house to get ahead or even get a lower rate. But they can't because a notice of federal tax lien has been placed on their credit report, or maybe there might be an amount that they might owe and there's a lien on their credit report because these are kind of they're notoriously inaccurate on the credit reports, and we'll actually get into why that is actually going to be a good thing for a lot of people in a little bit. But again, we're going to answer the question, what do I do if there's a tax lien and it's hurting my ability to refinance? Before we get into that, we're going to just take like a minute and talk a little bit about this show and what we do here. And then we'll dive right into that question so you get an answer and a few kind of actionable tips about what you can do about that. So my name's Jared Altman. This is my blog. I work in the area. I'm a tax advisor. I work in the tax industry, and I work helping people deal with collections type issues. But the reality is that there's not a lot of good information online about this. There's not enough pro bono time in the world to be able to solve the issues that are out there. And there aren't, sometimes it just doesn't make sense to hire someone either. If your issue is worth 200 or 300, it doesn't make sense to hire someone to help you solve that for more than you might get. So I put this out there to make sure that everybody can get some good quality information about what to do and can kind of have a working knowledge of the process, because I think that even if people know this stuff, once it gets more complicated, they end up still needing someone, and they end up doing a better job being engaged with their case if they know a little bit more information. So those are kind of the reasons that I do this. Occasionally we have other guests on here, other professionals, people in related industries. And then other than that, yeah, well, we talk about, like I said before, we talk about taxes. Sometimes we talk about debt. Sometimes general finance, kind of the people that we bring on or what I talk about can be kind of related to any of those things. And then, then the other thing that's kind of important to know is how I got into this. Like I said, I'm a tax advisor and I help on the collection side of things. I kind of stumbled into it when I had some people that I cared about got on the wrong side of the IRS, not because they actually did anything, but just watching that process of how difficult it was for them helped me to kind of understand how important this was. And I had a little bit of training, and especially after I handled some stuff for some people just kind of for free because I wasn't really marketing it, I saw the amazing difference that it had in people's lives, and I continue to see that. I know we'll talk about these eventually, but just the other day I filed something for somebody pro bono who was kind of down on his luck, isn't probably likely to be working again, and I got to erase more than $18,000 in tax debt, and that just kind of, I know that's going to turn his life around. And just, being able to do that for people, both, for free and in my paid job, because, I got to eat. I got to be able to afford this webcam to talk to you. I got to be able to afford kind of the stuff that goes into, continuing to exist. But I think that's a really cool skill set to have, and I enjoy that work. And then I put these together to make sure everybody gets kind of good information about that. So that's what we do on this show. You might occasionally see that we have giveaways, both of information and resources. So, check back every once in a while. You never know what you might miss if you don't. And then, yeah, that's it. So now we're going to answer the question for today, which is the answer to that question. The original question is, what do I do if the IRS has a lien on my house and it's stopping me from refinancing? Well, generally, it's kind of hard to get those removed unless you pay them, because the point is that they're securing their claim. So they're basically saying to all your other creditors, I put my claim here first, and so I'm going to get paid before all of you. There are certain exceptions to that for IRS debt, certain types of creditors will get paid before them because of what Congress has said, no matter what. But they're kind of getting their place in line. They're, letting everybody else know that they're there, and that's not necessarily something that they want to get rid of. The only reason they will get rid of one is if getting rid of it promotes effective tax administration, which is a fancy way of saying if the IRS gets paid, they'll remove that lien before they actually get paid, if it lets them get paid. So if you are refinancing your house and it's going to go to a lower rate and you can pull out some of that equity and pay them off, they may let you do that. If that lien is affecting certain other things, which we'll go into later, they may also see effective tax administration as a reason to remove that lien. But in this case, if there's a lien on the house and you want to refinance or something like that, most likely you're going to have to either figure out how to pay them, pull some of the equity out to then get the lower rate, which is kind of a complex financial decision. So you'd probably want to sit down with someone and figure out kind of what that would end up kind of doing to your long-term payment goals, what that would do to extending maybe the life of the loan, depending on how you do it, extending the amount you have to pay back each month. It really depends, and it's going to depend on what interest rate you have and what interest rate you're going to. So that's something to keep in mind with this. But if you do have a federal tax lien and a notice of federal tax lien has been filed, there's the potential to get that removed for effective tax administration reasons. And then you've got to file an argument, and you usually have to follow up with that. It's something that people can try to do by themselves, and they might succeed, but it is one of those things where you might find it's really helpful to have some help, just because someone's navigated that before. They know kind of when the deadlines are, where the deadlines are, what the process is. They know when the IRS is just denying something to make you file an appeal, which is a tactic around some things. And they just generally know how to follow the system and know when the IRS maybe isn't doing what it's supposed to be, and then they can pull in other resources in ways that if you don't deal with this or aren't familiar with the code, you can't. It doesn't mean you can't try it yourself. And we'll have some more resources talking about this kind of stuff, but it is one of those areas where it can be really helpful to have someone. So that's kind of what we were going to go over today, which is, again, what do I do if I have a lien on my house and I need to refinance? So that answers that question. Our question for next week is, what is an OIC? So a lot of people have heard about these, and so I'm going to kind of talk about them, dispel a few myths, and then, just dispel a few myths about them, kind of explain how they actually work, and we might have an offer. We'll see. It depends. I got to talk with some other people. And then the last thing is, if you enjoyed this podcast, we want you to comment down below. Ask questions if you have them. You're curious. We usually get answers to this kind of stuff real quick. If I see it, there's a good chance I'll fire up the webcam and answer it that day. So you may get an answer same day in video form. And if you want, I'll give a shout out to you. If you don't, I won't. And then the very last thing, is we want to know what you think about this. What do you think about the IRS's ability to kind of remove their lien from the registry, if that means they get paid? Is that a good thing for the government to have the power to do? Is it bad because it means people's credit scores go up when they still owe? What's your take on that? I think it's a very helpful tool for me, and it's very helpful to how I help people, and it gives me a lot more leverage when dealing with them. But outside of that, I'm kind of curious what you guys think about it. And then actually, there's one more thing I forgot to talk about, and this was the actionable tip. So I apologize. The actionable tip for today is that a lot of these liens don't have the proper information attached to them. I mentioned that a lot of them are inaccurate. And so actually recently, some of the credit bureaus decided that they didn't want to have these on credit reports anymore. So if you don't have the proper information on them, and it depends on, you don't have to have all of it, but you do have to have some of it. So your name, your social security, your date of birth, if you don't have enough of that information attached to the lien, you can get it removed incredibly easy by the credit bureau. And it doesn't actually matter. I don't think with their process, it matters if you actually owe the amount or not. It's just an automated procedure. We'll have another episode specifically about that. I know that they have said they're going to take them off if they don't have all the information that they need. And it's kind of hard to even prove that the lien is actually right, because a lot of times the amounts are different from what the IRS has on file. So even if you're trying to check and see if it is the lien that's on there, it's really hard to tell if it is your lien or someone else's lien if you never got a notice of federal tax lien. Because what the credit bureau has is often very, very different from what the IRS has, in my experience. So their credit bureaus aren't known for their due diligence, and this is one of those areas where that's really showing through, and it can end up working in your favor because they're fairly easy to get removed because of that. So that's all for today. I'll see you guys in the next episode where we dispel some myths about OICs and have some kind of real talk about what they are, what they aren't, and the lies that everybody's been fed. So again, comment down below, ask questions, and I'm curious about your thoughts. What do you think about this lien removal process? What do you think about the IRS's ability to do that? Do you think it's good? Do you think it's bad? Do you think it's a great tool? Do you not care? So let me know down below. That's all. Have a great night.